Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. The boom in super cheap e-commerce has claimed a major Australian scalp, with Wesfarmers to close down its marketplace business Catch. Amazon is continuing to grow its presence here alongside more recent rivals Temu and Shein. So, what does the closure mean for Wesfarmers, best known for its Bunnings, Kmart and Officeworks brands, and what does it say about the pressure on other Australian retailers trying to compete in the e-commerce space? Remember, this is general information only and you should seek professional advice before making investment decisions. Ben Gilbert is the head of Australian research at Jarden, leading their research team and consumer stock coverage. Ben, welcome back to Fear and Greed.
Thank you for having me.
Are you surprised that Wesfarmers ended up closing Catch or are going to close Catch?
Look, there's been some scuttlebutt around for a while. I think we've all seen the numbers. The top line's been in sort of continual decline after a pretty meteoric rise through COVID. The losses have obviously been a challenge as well. And I think ultimately you look at the scale and the stable of brands that Wesfarmers have got, I just don't think the materiality that it held or the opportunity was something they meant sort of look to pursue. So look, I'm not surprised. It's disappointing in some ways because the brand obviously has been around for a while. It's a homegrown brand. But you will see a lot of elements and aspects of it rolled into the Kmart business, which will provide a lot of opportunity within Kmart as well.
Okay. In terms of that market, the e-commerce market, so you have, apart from the established players, the Woolies and Coles and Bunnings and Officeworks and that, you have Amazon, which is a giant. But what about the rest? The Kogans, those sorts of organisations, how generally, and I'm not asking you about Kogan necessarily, but how do those smaller players compete against an Amazon? Can they do it?
Yeah, look, I think that's the $1 million question at the moment, Sean. I think the question people are saying was, is this a canary in the coal mine? You've got a situation where Amazon's had this meteoric rise in Australia over the last 5 or 6 years. Last year, it probably got close to $7 billion of turnover. But then against that backdrop, you've had every other retailer doing particularly well. And you've had Mosaic and a few others falling over as well. But on the whole, the bigger retailers and listed ones that we all get a lot more visibility on have continued to perform extremely strongly. Now, the question is are we reaching an inflection point now? We're at a point where you've got groups like Amazon has started to switch on same day pretty much nationally. The industry pundits are sort of saying they could hit $10 billion of turnover in this current calendar year. That's another $3 billion that's going to have to come from somewhere. And then you've got a situation where consumers are increasingly seeking out value, and you sort of mentioned Temu as well. So, look, I think that's the question. And where I think we're finding that Amazon's really probably put the pressure on or stepped up in the last couple of years is supply chain. And supply chain costs money. It's capital intensive. You can't run that through some clever campaigns, these sorts of things. This is us being able to know with confidence we ordered today, we're going to get it first thing tomorrow. So, look, I think it's going to have some bigger impacts across the rest of retail moving forward. If you look to other markets, you look to the US, Canada, Italy, UK, France, other markets, it has impacts. And I think sort of more homogenous, sort of generic type products, ones that consumers are happy to order online with a lot of comfort, are categories we're going to have to be a bit more concerned about. And as you mentioned, Kogan's obviously one that gets talked about. We saw Ruslan was in the press yesterday sort of saying it's something he would have looked at. But again, look, competitive backdrop's intense.
How do they do it? How does Temu get my daughter 30 items for under $3 or thereabouts?
Well, we get visibility on the top line. We don't get visibility on the bottom line. Yep. And if you look at some of the figures out globally, and look, I don't have these confirmed, but the loss per order is not immaterial. You look at the freight, the logistics costs that go with it. To your point, you look at the average cost of item, and in fact, in many cases, is not sort of that onerous sort of minimum baskets. The losses per order are significant. But at the same time, globally now, you're seeing Temu doing more domestic warehousing. That brings down costs. They're hitting points of scale. Again, that brings down costs. To get to a point where we might be able to think about things like media and advertising. It's another revenue stream. So it's about moving to scale. But I wouldn't assume that they're making much money, sure.
Stay with me, Ben. We'll be back in a minute. I'm speaking to Ben Gilbert, Head of Australian Research at Jarden. Okay, so we've talked about those smaller e-commerce players. What's the outlook for some of the bigger guys, the JBs, the Bunnings, Officeworks, Woolies and Coles both have decent online plays at the moment. Is it a question of cost? Is it a question of supply chain? Is it a question of customer satisfaction? I kind of don't quite get the economics of online trading, to be honest.
Yeah, look, I think if you look at the online retailers that are profitable globally, they make revenue around the whole customer experience. So it's not just selling the good. It's charging money for the advertisement of the brand. It's charging money for a brand to fulfill. It's charging money for a brand in terms of placement. It's using that customer data to build out order frequency, to build out average basket size. So it's all these other things that go with it. What does it mean for the bigger players? Maybe we'll start with Wesfarmers first, given they've obviously made the decision to close Catch. Look, what you're going to find is they're going to use some of the underutilized capacity in Catch's supply chain, and notably its automated distribution centers that are pretty good, by the way. Roll those into Kmart. So for all of us, it should improve our experience, quicker deliveries, probably more products online potentially, and probably provide some other opportunities too. But what I think it really tells us is Wesfarmers is going to look at focusing more on its curated, targeted marketplaces. So Bunnings have got a marketplace going phenomenally well. They're continuing to ramp that up. You've got what they're doing with OnePass in terms of the capabilities there. You've got Priceline. You've now obviously got Kmart that's going to continue to ramp. They're going to go down the much more targeted route. Look, Woolies have got a myriad of brands that run across their marketplaces. Again, I think they'll continue to push. The question is, are you better taking a consolidated approach? We shall see. I think Walmart's the best example that's doing phenomenally well in the US at the moment. Tesco's just ticked over 300,000 products on its marketplace. There's a big push globally and a big opportunity. Coles, look, I don't think it's necessarily on their agenda and a bigger push, but look, it's something to think about. JB's is in its relative infancy, but you're seeing quite a quick ramp up in their marketplace at the moment. Big opportunity. Interestingly, they're backed by, I think, sort of the same group that's backing Wesfarmers marketplaces. But also what it's going to allow JBs to do in a bigger way now is think about media in a bigger way. Think about moving up the funnel, other revenue streams. So long-winded answer, Sean, to your question, but I think they're all going to continue to push, probably taking slightly different approaches, but really thinking about how to leverage online eyeballs to maximize the revenue opportunity that they can pull from all of us as retail punters out there.
How important is it to have a loyal customer base? And I'm thinking of Myer in this instance. Myer is not necessarily the best retailer in the world in the last 5 years or so. It will push online because it absolutely has a great loyalty program.
Yeah, look, Myer One has proven to be one of the better loyalty programs in Australia. I don't know if we'd necessarily say it's the best, but it's got a lot of capacity, a lot of capability. And so got Olivia Worth, who's come in to run Myer as the exec chair now, and she did a phenomenal job at Qantas, so running their loyalty program. So you'd have to back the capabilities there. But Myer's got to think about how it can be different. As you think about Amazon, Amazon's what Myer and DJs and these players were 10, 15 years ago. It's a department store where you can get everything, except in Amazon, it's got over 200 million products. Myer's obviously not even a fraction of that. So I think they've got to think about how can they create differentiation. Is it by creating a currency? Is it via partnerships? Is it via exclusives? Is it via leveraging the local footprint to create better experiences for people at a store level? A lot of opportunities. But again, I think it's trying to find points of differentiation that you can neutralize what you can and you differentiate where you've got an opportunity or a point of competitive advantage.
Where does bricks and mortar retailing go given this growth in online retailing?
Well, I think you've got to lean into this seamless experience. And I think...
Hold on, Ben, I'm pulling you up on that. You've got to lean into this seamless experience.
Well,
what does that mean?
maybe it's sort of a new little phrase that I've made up that's probably going to last about 2 seconds. But I think you've got to lean into what you've got. And where I was sort of coming on that is that if you think about stores still offer something. Like I was out there buying my son a new present today, cricket helmet. He needed the experience to touch and feel to know what size it is. Now, at the same time, I think what we need to do is try and make this, when I say seamless, in terms of people's interaction, in terms of shopping in store versus online versus looking in store and then doing a delivery or click and collect, whatever it is, people need to feel it's just one experience. And what we're doing, if we look at retailers that are doing a good job around this globally, I'll look at, say, Dick's Sporting Goods, which Super Retail by Rebel is emulating a little bit down here, is they're creating experiences. They're making reasons why people want to go to store. Yeah. Similarly, look at JB's and Harvey's. Look at how they display the televisions. You can touch and feel, you can engage, use points of differentiation that you might not be able to do online, and then say, look, yeah, we'll deliver that. And we'll chuck that in an Uber, we'll chuck it with Ozpost, we'll get it to you pretty quickly. So it's playing to your strengths and neutralizing where you can. All easy for us to say, but I think this is where a lot of these companies with store footprints have to play.
Yeah, I kind of wonder I don't know whether it's quite a tipping point, but there are a bunch of players out there that have to do both, and they have to be really good at both. Amazon doesn't. Amazon just has to be great online. and there are probably a bad example perhaps, but I think the Reject Shop is one of those organisations which is very much a bricks and mortar shop, and it's decided that's its play. But there are a bunch that have to try and do both, which must be expensive.
Yeah, it is. But funnily, in Australia, you're finding that most of the retailers are happy to be fast followers. And if you look at probably two of the better or best retailers, and I know Wesfarmers isn't a retailer, but predominantly earnings are, and then you look at JB's, two of the best, if not the best operators in Australia have not gone down the route to try and chuck as much money as they can as quickly as they can. So look, let's just throw billions of dollars at this. Now, some of us analysts, including myself, have probably thought they should have done it more quickly. Mm-hmm. Maybe in hindsight they shouldn't. I think they've probably made the right decision. And they're taking a fast follower approach. They're looking at what works well, what doesn't, and investing behind it and taking a measured approach. And ultimately, look, I think to date that's proven to be the right one. The question is, are we going to see a situation like in the US with Walmart at the moment that's put billions of dollars behind CapEx? They rejigged it away from stores towards supply chain. They got their online offer right, their marketplace offer right, and their digital and alternative revenue, and they're shooting the lights out. Stock's massively re-rated, growing faster than Amazon, all these fun things. Are we going to get to a point like that in Australia for one of the incumbents? And is there any room for one? That's a big question and one we debate. And is it Woolies? Is it Wesfarmers? Is it Coles? Is it JB's or someone like that that could be that? That goes to the question around how much money they need to put down.
Great sector, Ben. Thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Thank you very much.
That's Ben Gilbert, Head of Australian Research at Jarden. This is the Fear and Greed business interview. Remember, this is general information only, and you should seek professional advice before making investment decisions. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, daily business news for people who make their own decisions. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.